Всем привет, с вами Игорь, вы смотрите видеоканал GameScope, и я нахожусь в отеле Рис Иванс, где только что прошла пресс-конференция по поводу того, что в Москве состоялась премьера фильма «Новый Человек-паук», и сегодня ее представляли режиссер картины Марк Уэбб, продюсеры Ави Арад и исполнители главных ролей Рис Иванс, Эндрю Гарфилд и Эмма Стоун. А вот то, что там стену за мной разбирают, вы на это не смотрите. А теперь давайте посмотрим конференцию.
Дорогие профессиональные любители кино, буквально через несколько минут здесь в этом зале появятся те самые звезды, которые мы с вами ожидаем. Мы с вами являемся большими везунчиками тем, что по той причине, что на 3 недели раньше увидели, чем весь мир, эту картину. Вчера нас посетили создатели этого восхитительного блокбастера. Встречаем Марк Webb, Эмма Стоун, Рис Иванс, Ави Арад и Мэтт Толмак. Аплодисменты! И у меня будет вопрос в первую очередь к Марку Уэббу. Если вы позволите, в России эта лента называется «Новый Человек-паук». Хотя, будем с вами предельно откровенны, многие зрители, в том числе и российские, видимо, ожидают продолжения истории Человека-паука. Так вот, у меня вопрос. Почему было принято решение начать идти по вот этому направлению, начать рассказывать эту историю заново?
Speaker here, is this right?
Yeah.
All right, excellent. So, I think if you look at the Spider-Man canon, there's 50 years of stories and characters to tell. I think it was very important for me to find new and exciting and engaging material, and I wanted to redefine it in a very specific way. I think in terms of simple narrative, there's the story of Peter Parker's parents, which we had never seen before. We've seen the origin of Spider-Man. We haven't seen the origin of Peter Parker. And his parents are a really important part of that. And of course, there's the Gwen Stacy saga, and if you're familiar with the comics, that's one of the most interesting, if at times controversial storylines in all of comics, and particularly in Spider-Man. And then of course we have the extraordinary villain, Kirk Connors, also known as the Lizard. And these were all things I thought were important to explore.
Sure, I think technology has advanced light years just in the last few years, and I think particularly for us.
Yeah. I'm pushing it, sorry. I don't have super strength, unfortunately. Great, excellent. Perfect, thank you.
Figured out the picture. Okay. 2 miles.
All right, so I think that the technology is pretty impressive. In fact, it outwits me consistently. But I think, particularly with this film, I think 3D has offered an access point to Spider-Man, which Spider-Man was born for 3D. And I think there's something about the subjective experience of 3 dimensions that makes you feel like you're flying through the air, and that was something that I was really excited to explore. Again, when I'm trying to create a scene or think about a scene, it's very important to empathize with the character, whether that's emotionally or in this case, physiologically. You can actually sense a new kind of feeling when you're watching a Spider-Man movie, particularly in the second part of the movie when there's a lot more action and flight and velocity and vertigo, and I thought those elements were really important to explore. As far as superhero movies, I think there's just something in the air. I think that heroic impulse is something that we all admire and appreciate, and that's the zeitgeist at the moment. I don't know how to explain it beyond that.
The one thing I would add to it, and Mark, you can expound on it a bit, is the use of 3D in the movie was an incredibly exciting thing to take on and challenging. But I think from the very beginning, the way Mark talked about it and the way he successfully executed it, is that it was always a storytelling component. It wasn't just something we were doing because people are making movies in 3D. It obviously looks spectacular, but it's part of the story. Partnering what Mark was saying about the subjective experience, you feel like Peter. So by the time in the movie that the 3D really is magnified, you know what it feels like to fly. And so it comes along sort of at the right moment. And I think that's a very targeted idea of his. And something we're proud of.
I'm going to answer first. Yeah, I'm ready to fight anyone who doesn't like me. If anyone in this room doesn't like me, if people don't like me, then that's their business, and that's absolutely fine. And I can't control how they feel. I think they're wrong too. I think I'm a nice person, and I think I treat people well. And I'd be confused and hurt. But I understand because I love Tobey Maguire. And I love him in those Spider-Man movies. He will always be the Spider-Man in my imagination. So I'm going to take your question and make it positive. And I just feel honoured to be stepping into his more than capable shoes. And it's more about the symbol of Spider-Man for me than it is about any actor previously playing it or whatever. But if you wanted to, we can talk afterwards if you'd like, and you can tell me how you feel. But no, I just feel honoured to be stepping into this character's shoes and hopefully keeping the intention of Stan Lee alive with all these great creative people. Thanks for your question.
I think I can take the question about darker. I think our intention was never to make a darker Spider-Man. It was to find a more grounded, more emotionally real version of Spider-Man. I think that what had been done previously was very loyal to especially to the original Stan Lee, Steve Ditko comics, and I wanted to create a universe that felt like when you walked out of the theater, you recognized the people and the places around you, so you could find some emotional value that was new and grounded and realistic. That was the mantra, not darker, but more real.
It was a dream come true because I've been waiting for 25 years for that phone call, and finally it came, and I was overwhelmed, and I was there, and you can attest to that. And Avi and Matt were there, and Amy, and I knew that my life was about to shift in a way that I had no idea how, but I knew that it was huge, and here we sit. In Moscow, and it's as surreal now as it was then. I think I got drunk.
I think actually, for me, it was a very natural transition. I know that sounds weird to say, but it's absolutely true. I think 500 Days of Summer was about creating a universe, about very small moments between people, very intimate little details that make a story. And I wanted to do the same thing with Spider-Man. I wanted to create a foundation of relatability and intimacy and small details. And luckily, I was fortunate to work with actors like Andrew who were experts at creating authentic, real, spontaneous moments. And it was I think good enough to build a whole film on. And that's so for me that was it's sort of a natural transition. It took a lot longer than 500 Days of Summer, but it felt oddly natural.
Yes, it was incredible. It was so amazing to work with Andrew and to create those, that story and those visions. And Mark was really amazing and giving it away. He let us find things sometimes on the day. He also would sit with us when we would like bring a scene to him and break it all down and build it back up to, you know, the same scene that had been written on the page. But he looked at all the angles with us, and it was really nice to create that authentic first love, teenage, uncomfortable, heartbreakingly awkward, momented relationship. That is not going to translate well. I'm so sorry.
So there's something rare about that on a movie this size, I think, and it's a testament to Mark that it never felt like we were doing a big movie. In whatever that word means, it felt like we were doing a small movie and it felt intimate, I think, between all the characters and all the actors, and that was a testament to the environment that Mark set up.
Oh yeah. Hello, Russia. Yeah, always the most challenging thing is always the most rewarding thing, and the most challenging thing for me was, playing not only a human being with one arm, of which I have two, but playing a human being who becomes a reptile. It's not kind of familiar territory for anyone, so it was just exploring what that transition entails physically and mentally. So it would mean, on some days, visiting some kind of very dark and painful and explored areas within myself. On an emotional level and on a physical level, it sometimes meant sitting in a makeup chair for up to 7 hours with 7 very skilled makeup artists working in detail on me, and the end result of being still for that length of time, certainly for me, is you kind of find yourself in a suitably unhinged place to deliver the goods.
You've read the script of the sequel, haven't you? Well, I think there's something iconic about New York City. But New York City is an international city, and it's something I think we all identify with. This just happened to be where Stan Lee invented the hero. But I don't know, I think it's an interesting idea. What do you guys think?
Whatever you want to do, sir. That's correct.
Moscow, St. Petersburg, we'll figure it out.
I think we should set it in the desert, because I think that it would be impossible for Spider-Man to function in the desert, because there's no buildings at all. And I think
Swing off a
he's
cactus.
defeated so easily, and that would be kind of interesting.
I think the lizards would feel very at home in the desert, so look out.
I have 2 questions for Andrew and 1 question for Rhys. Andrew, I just wanted to say that it's good to know that you've been a Spider-Man since you were 5. I was as well, and I just want to say that you're one of the finest actors of our generation. I've been watching and observing your work since Sugar Rush till Never Let Me Go, and I was really enjoying it. And first of all, you know that it's like Spider-Man 50th anniversary, right? Why do you think he stayed like such an iconic and popular character throughout the years? And my second question is, do you have any favorite Spider-Man story, maybe saga, I don't know? Thanks.
Thank you for your wonderful compliment and your questions. I discovered a bunch of new sagas that I'd never experienced before, like the McFarlane saga, the Torment saga. I think Mark introduced me to that, and that was insane. I didn't know that Spider-Man existed in that universe, and that art, and that kind of darkness, and that was awesome. And then I looked at the Ultimates as well, which I thought were incredible too, for physicality and that kind of teenage angst and wit. And to answer your first question, I don't know why it means so much to so many people. I just know what it means to me, and therefore I assume it means the same to everyone else. I think he's been such a kind of human symbol of hope for generations. And Stan Lee did create something transcendent, and I hope his image is kept alive well after we finish these movies and after another series of movies and another whatever. I just hope that, I don't think people will stop identifying with him, and there's something globally relatable about him, which is that you don't see any skin color. He's the only superhero that you don't see any skin color. Everything is covered. So around the world, you know, people of all cultures and kids of all cultures can feel like they are him. And I think there's something, and you know, girls, boys, men, women, children, old men, you know, babies. It's for everyone. I think that may be a theory, but yeah, thank you. And like your T-shirt.
You did justice to the character.
Bless you, thank you.
Rhys, and question to you. You're a tremendously actor, you're terrific, and you always have this kind of, you know, mentor quality, like in Neverland when you played Captain Hook, you play a mentor, and here playing a mentor as well. Do you find something interesting in the aspect of playing the father-like figure to some other characters, perhaps?
I think it just means I'm getting older. But yeah, there is a real kind of, I don't have kids myself, I have a stepdaughter who I love very much. Yeah, there is something kind of very, I'm very close to my own father, you know, so there is something very moving in playing someone. When you, I don't know, when you feel in a generational cue, you know, you feel that when you play a mentor, you feel that you're standing in a long line, you know, an ancient line that is passing on a story. And in this case, it's a 50-year-old story, and a very precious one. I would blame the corporation he was working for. I think the real villain in this piece is Oscorp, and I would drag Oscorp through the international courts.
I can answer that. No, absolutely not. No, never.
Maybe просто повторить вопрос, если есть такая возможность, в наушниках.
I think they like it more. and the reason for that is that his character is real. His character that he can all relate to. His character that we want Peter to be a best friend. He will aspire to him because Peter has this amazing fulfillment abilities and he uses them for good. Versus when you talk about total fantasy characters that have this really great place in movie. But if you talk about something that is long lasting, sets up standard, is like Peter Parker, Spider-Man, and I feel like this being for Peter Parker.
I have a question for Mark and Andrew. What was, for Mark, what was the most challenging scene to shoot, visual effect wise?
I think the most challenging was probably the bridge sequence because it took place over several, well, the shooting of it took place over several months, and it required a lot of practical stunts, effects, a child, a computer animated or computer generated lizard, and most importantly had an emotional component to it. I think action sequences at their best contain some sort of emotional thrust, and that was a pivotal moment for Spider-Man where he's has an epiphany or a transformation emotionally and or a realization, and because of that, you know, all those things had to serve a certain emotion, and that's what made it tricky because there was a lot of moving parts in that.
Thank you. And for Andrew, First of all, congratulations on your recent Tony nomination. And what was the most challenging stunt to do for you?
That was a hard day. That was a hard day. Even though I wasn't in fact holding that car the whole weight of it, I was probably holding about 0.08% of the weight of it, and that was heavy enough because you have to look as if the muscles have to be in action. And blood was rushing to my head. I'm not Spider-Man. I am just an actor, and I felt it then. But no, it was amazing. All the stunt sequences were incredibly fun to do. Largely because of an amazing stunt coordinator called Andy Armstrong, who we worked so closely with and intimately with for 4 months before filming, and his team, who should be named and kind of honoured in every single press conference we do. They took Mark's cue, wanting to make all the action sequences as grounded and as true as possible, so the audience can feel like they are Spider-Man. And they took that and worked day and night to make sure that it was the authentic Spider-Man experience. So it was an incredible voyage of discovery with them that we all had.
It's important to note Andrew did an enormous quantity of his own stunts, and that day in particular, he was being yanked out of that car in order to feel like he was catching it, and he had the physical acumen that it required to do that in a convincing way was really profound. It was impressive for all of us to sit back and eat, gummy bears and watch this guy in a skin-tight suit being yanked from a car and having to catch the edge of the trunk of that car in a convincing way. It was really extraordinary to watch. And I often sit back behind the monitor and thank God that I'm not an actor.
Sorry, it was still going. That wasn't me. It was, I think pretty much the direction was similar. And again, it's what we've been talking about most of this time. Mark was very interested in keeping the story grounded. So whether it was an action sequence, and I didn't. When is it that involved physically in those scenes? I hit the lizard with a trophy and I got thrown out the window once. But for the most part, I'm not kicking ass, so to speak, physically. So it was always a very grounded element, whether it was sitting on the floor in my bedroom or standing in a closet waiting for the lizard to come attack me. It was all in the same world, and so it didn't feel like a different direction or like a different. What am I trying to say? It felt similar across the board, which I was very grateful for, and it was a great lesson for me to learn as an actor that the budget can be $200 million or $2 million, and you're approaching the character in a very similar way. I think it's funny. Throughout history, there's been I think males outweigh females in a lot of character archetypes, which is also, as a comedian, it's more rare to see female comedians than male comedians. Most of the people I grew up watching in comedy were men. Those are a lot of my role models. So it's the same with superheroes. But I will tell you, I would love to be Siren in the X-Men. That's the only one that I've read or known about that I was like, I get her. She's loud and it stops people in their tracks.
All right, let's see, where do we begin? As you know, Avengers is a Marvel group of characters, and Spider-Man is the crown jewel of the Marvel universe. So for us, we have a lot of confidence going to the market, especially when Marvel became such a famous, well-liked, and desired brand. Spider-Man is very different than all these movies because it's really a very healthy combination of character and action. As you saw in this movie, there is something for everybody, everything for all. So we feel very excited, especially here in Russia. I think there is tremendous respect for literature and mythology, and we feel that if the movie is as good as we believe it is, you will embrace it. And in the past, you embraced Spider-Man. was a great country for us here. So just keep doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would like to. I'm a brave man to say this in this show, but I would like to tackle Rasputin. That was a relief. And what was the rest of the question? Oh, one special power. I think right now it would be invisibility.
And similarly, I think right now it would be teleportation.
I'd like just to fly generally.
I'd like to have a magnetic colon.
What?
Never mind. Ну что ж, перед тем, как мы перенесемся с вами в кинотеатр «Октябрь» на красную дорожку, у меня будет одна маленькая просьба к Эндрю сказать вот amazing Spider-Man, но по-русски. Собственно, если вы сейчас это сделаете, будет очень здорово. Новый Человек-паук. Новый Человек-паук. Окей, ладно. Новый
Новый
Человек-паук.
Человек-паук.